Hey there, y'all. I was so excited to write this episode because it is different. It's a little bit different from the previous one. So, in past episodes, I've talked about more abstract ideas related to peace and what that looks like to maintain in your lives. But this time I wanted to zero in on an experience that most of us know very well driving. So in this episode, I'm going to just explain, what do I even like so much about driving? Because I'm someone who just loves to be in the car and to take trips. We're going to talk about what I like so much about driving, when driving sucks or when it's not so fun, peace and driving and how those two are related, and then how does the Bible even tie into all of this? And then lastly, we'll wrap it up and just kind of bring everything home. So I'm excited to share this particular episode with you all. So, driving. You either love it or you hate it. And I have turned into somebody who absolutely loves it. I think from the beginning, even when I was working on my permit, when I was 14 years old. But I got my license at 18, which at the time that felt really late, and I felt like I was behind because my friends they had gotten theirs around age 16. Like it seemed as soon as they turned 16, they had their license in a car ready to go. And I was just kind of still getting rides from them and being dropped off places by my parents. And so by the time I got my license at 18, I had graduated high school already, and so kind of felt like I'd missed out on the fun. So to make up for it, I just wanted to drive everywhere. I'd go to the movies, the mall, friends' houses just to show them I could and be like, hey guys, look at me now. And it's good that I got so much driving out of my system that summer because later that year in August of 2015, I started college, and guess who didn't have a car to take with them? My little 3 months of independence and transportation they were fun, but it was also short-lived because, that ended as soon as it was time to go up to school. But with all that, even though I didn't have my own car in college, for 4.5 years, I relied on my core buddies and friends to help me run errands and take me where I needed to go and to just, help out and give me a ride home in some cases. And I was so grateful for their willingness to chauffeur me around and just be there for me in that way. But man, I can now say confidently that nothing beats having your own transportation. So I can't really say what made me so anxious to drive in the first place because I know some people are just scared or nervous to get their license, but I was just excited all the time. Like I was driving my parents crazy, wanting to always go practice and drive places with them in the passenger seat. But my preference as far as driving cars has always been for small cars. Like I drive a compact sedan currently, and I love small cars because I love being able to just whip them around, pull into parking spots easily, and best of all, the fuel economy, which I rank as my most important aspect of looking for a car, because that ultimately translates into spending less money on gas. I enjoy the feel of the car, just the sound of the engine, and the overall sensation of being behind the wheel and being in control of where I'm going, especially when there's like no one on the road. That's always a nice bonus. Plus, I live out in the suburbs currently, so every day for work, I'm driving east to get to work, and then I'm driving west in the evening to get home. So I'm always driving either toward the sunrise or the sunset, which is just awesome, y'all. Like the sunsets and sunrises out here in the burbs, they're pretty nice. So getting to look at that while I'm driving makes all the difference as well. I do admit, though, I've got a bit of a lead foot. I usually am going about 5 to 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, except in school zones or construction areas because, well, I speed within reason. As my mom puts it, I drive with a purpose, and as my dad was teaching me, it's important to keep up with the flow of traffic, although since he was a fast driver himself, that probably didn't mean too much coming from him. I think most of us can agree, though, that there are things that can really suck the fun out of driving sometimes. On the top of my list is traffic. But this is inevitable and unavoidable, really, especially living in a big city. I live on the outskirts of Houston, so traffic is just a guaranteed part of my daily commute. My favorite is when I spend several minutes just inching along, all constantly braking, and then suddenly everything clears up and traffic starts flowing again, and you have no idea what just happened or what was causing the jam. Like there's just no trace of anything on the road in front of you. Another thing that can really put a damper on the experience is reckless or rude drivers. So I'm talking people, flipping you off, even if you were in the right and they're the ones that cut you off or did something unfair. Now, to be honest, though, I haven't seen too much of this lately, maybe because everyone's windows are so tinted that you wouldn't even be able to tell anyway. But yeah, people just flipping you off or giving rude gestures, cutting you off, just passive aggressive approach, speeding up when you're trying to get around them. So maybe you're behind someone and they're going a little slower than what you'd like, and you try to get over and pass them to keep going, but then they start to speed up too. And it's like, okay, no. I know what you're doing there, and you need to stop. And then just on the road, we're dealing with personalities too. So it's not just a bunch of cars on the road. These are real people who are just their personalities, I believe, come out in their driving. And I'm sure there's been some studies or research published on this, but I really do believe that, our personalities are reflected in the way we drive and how we behave on the road. So, for example, if maybe you're someone who struggles with anger or you have a short fuse, road rage might not be totally out of the question for you on the road. If you're someone who's a little bit more timid and shy as a person, maybe you're not as aggressive of a driver and you're more likely to let people get in front of you or just let people kind of push you around on the road. So it's just interesting to see the different driving styles that are out there. Moving on into the peace and driving section of this episode. So as much as I enjoy driving, there are days when I do get sick of it. And I just can't wait to get home and call it a day, just get off the road and be done dealing with people. I get irritated at things that other drivers do, and I think it's unfair when I'm sharing the road with people who drive like they've got a death wish. So it's, these are really natural feelings to have, and yes, people can get annoying. But it's important to remember that we are totally responsible for how we respond to things, how we conduct ourselves on the road. Just like with any other area, we can react or we can respond. Reacting is impulsive, and responding requires thought, and it requires us to be intentional with our actions. So, that's where the peace part comes in, I think, is that we also need to remember that peace is not something that gets taken from us. Like, no one can steal our peace. We have to choose to let that go or to give it up. And we can do that by, something as simple as focusing on something that offended us or something that didn't go the way we wanted it to, whether in life or in a social situation or on the road. So I'll give y'all an example. There was one morning I was driving to work and I saw two cars coming up really fast behind me. I was already in a section of the road where it was 50-mile-per-hour speed limit. And so in my rearview mirror, I saw the cars coming up, and there were two lanes, and I was in the right lane along with these other two cars. And so I figured I'd just keep cool and let them pass me. And so they did, I saw them change lanes just as I was anticipating. But the second car just barely missed my headlight as it was getting back over into the right lane. To the point where I had to swerve to give him room because it was that close. Like I really believe I would have been hit if I didn't, move out of the way like I did. And it sounds mild now explaining it, but in the moment I was very upset because I could have been hit. Like I was very upset about that. And I thought about that moment for a really big part of my drive into work. And so I allowed that incident to put a damper on everything else that had gone well that morning. Like I'd had a good breakfast, I made some tea to take to work with me. I was leaving on time, and I was getting a bit of a head start on the road from where I usually was. And so I just gave up my peace over something that was over as quickly as it happened. Now, I'm not saying to just deny, like when I think, you can, of course you'll get upset if someone almost hits you or if you do get hit. But the point of that illustration was just to let y'all know, like it was, I chose to keep focusing on that and to keep thinking about it for just probably the majority of my drive into work, to the point where it just soured everything else that had happened that morning. And so that's really what happens when we give up our peace, is that we just allow ourselves to fixate on the wrong things. And maybe it doesn't matter how well everything else went that day. Like, we get just stuck on that one detail, and there goes our peace. And with that said, I do want to get into how the Bible even applies here. It might seem like a weird topic to apply scripture to, but I'm doing it anyway. So Romans 12:18 says, "If it is possible, as much as it depends on you, live peaceably with all men." When it comes to driving, sometimes this may mean letting that other car speed up to pass you, even if you were comfortable having no one in front of you on the road. It might mean being the person that finally lets someone into your lane after they've been sitting with their blinker on, watching car after car pass them and refuse to let them over. One day, when I was driving home from work, I was at a stoplight in a left turn lane, and it was the only lane that turned left. The other three to my right went straight. And so the lady in the car next to me, she motioned and got my attention, and when I rolled my window down, she asked me if she could make a left turn from her lane to get in front of me. So apparently she realized she needed to make a left, and she just wasn't in the right lane to do that. So I said yes, and we both held up our end of the bargain. No harm, no foul. She made her turn, I followed her, and then, we were both on our way. So sometimes maybe living peaceably in the context of driving might mean doing something, just a polite gesture on the road, or just doing something a little unorthodox to help someone out, help them to get to where they're going. Typically, we think of driving as just a way to get from point A to B, which at its core, that's exactly what it is. But why not do other things along the way that could make it a little bit more enjoyable and help you keep your peace in the process? It's one thing to act peaceably toward people in a social setting or in the workplace, but why not when we drive too? Why be a jerk on the road only to get to where you're going and just turn on the charm, as if you didn't just cuss out 10 other drivers on your trip? And if you're someone who has a Jesus bumper sticker or a church sticker on the back of your car, you really need to be careful, because as unfair as it may seem, you represent all Christians or all of your fellow church members while you're on the road. The way you conduct yourself or not could reinforce another driver's opinion of Christianity. And maybe that sounds dramatic to some of y'all, but I think we'd all be surprised at the things that get people's attention, especially when they seem insignificant. To keep my cool on the road, I usually listen to music, podcasts, or sermons in the car. I have about a 50-minute commute to work, so yes, I'm able to get through a full sermon sometimes. And I found that the drive usually becomes much more pleasant, especially when you're really into the message or into the album you're listening to, and you're just enjoying it, and to the point where you don't even care what's happening around you. And not only is the drive more pleasant, but I'm also feeding my spirit and preparing myself mentally for the day ahead at the same time. Another thing to remember as we wrap this up is everyone is going through something. Every day we get on the road with people who are stressed, tired, at the end of their rope, just in survival mode. We also get on the road with people who are in great moods, who are having an awesome day, week, month, just nothing can drag them down. But a lot of times, people who are dealing with a lot of emotional turmoil, they might take out those emotions on whoever happens to be in their way, whether that's in traffic or otherwise. I'm not making excuses for rude behavior or mean-spirited gestures, but what I'm having to learn is not to take it personal when people act out on the road. When we get in the car, we have one mission: arrive at our destination safely. We have enough to think about on our daily schedules without getting hung up on the petty stuff, like the person who was tailgating you on the freeway, or the person who got in front of you without their blinker, or who just cut you off while they were changing lanes. Just all petty stuff that's usually over as soon as it happens. And I know sometimes we're compelled, or we feel like we just want to teach these people a lesson or show them how wrong they were in some way, but is it even worth it in the end? Like, the chances of us running into those same cars on the road later is just slim to none. So why not just keep our peace, turn on your music, turn on a sermon or something, and just enjoy the ride, and really just try your best not to let these types of things, these annoyances, is really what they are, get under your skin. I think we'll all be better for it, and how awesome would it be to just not have the traffic affect you in the morning, but instead you can come in ready to start your day and just letting go of whatever happened before you got there. And that is it. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Remember, my podcast social media is Instagram. It's at life@peace_podcast. On Facebook and YouTube, it's Life at Peace Podcast. So remember to go check this out. I always have the videos up, so you can watch the episode or you can just listen to it. Share it with your friends, your circle, people who are important to you. And remember, you can DM me with questions or episode suggestions. I look forward to engaging with you guys throughout the rest of this podcast journey. And in the meantime, stay blessed, and I will be back with y'all in 2 weeks for a new episode. Peace.